When emotions run high, speaking impulsively can be one of the most dangerous things you do. Anger, frustration, fear, and even excitement can cloud judgment, making every word heavier than it should be, and every statement more volatile than intended. In these moments, silence is not a sign of weakness. It is a demonstration of control, self-awareness, and intelligence. When you resist the urge to react immediately, you allow yourself the space to breathe, to process, and to observe. You create a pause that separates impulse from action, and in that pause lies your power. Words spoken in anger or anxiety have a tendency to escalate situations, to wound relationships, and to create consequences that linger far longer than the heat of the moment. By staying silent, you prevent yourself from becoming a participant in chaos, and instead become a calm observer, one who can choose actions deliberately rather than reactively. Silence in emotional situations serves as armor. It protects you from saying things you will later regret and shields you from being manipulated by others' provocations. People often push buttons precisely to elicit a reaction. They want to see you flustered, angry, or defensive. When you withhold your immediate response, you deny them that satisfaction. You assert control over your own behavior and over the situation itself. The act of remaining silent communicates more than words ever could. It signals restraint, composure, and a deep understanding of timing. Moreover, silence allows clarity to emerge. When emotions are running high, your mind is often clouded and your perception is distorted. Your judgment can be swayed by assumptions, misinterpretations, and personal biases. By choosing to remain silent, you give yourself the opportunity to step back and see the situation from multiple perspectives. You notice patterns, detect underlying motives, and recognize the bigger picture that would be invisible if you reacted immediately. In this way, silence is not empty. It is full of observation, assessment, and preparation. Practicing silence in emotional moments also cultivates patience. It teaches you to value thought over impulse, to respect the weight of words, and to understand that timing can transform the impact of what you say. A measured response, delivered after careful consideration, carries far more influence than an immediate outburst. People remember how you responded with composure, how you maintained dignity even when circumstances threatened to unravel it. Silence in these moments is a demonstration of strength, not submission. It shows that you are the master of your own mind and that you are not easily swayed by transient feelings or external pressure. Additionally, silence provides space for emotional regulation. By holding back words, you allow your body and mind to return to a calmer state, reducing the likelihood of reactive behavior. Your heartbeat slows, your breathing steadies, and your thoughts become organized rather than scattered. In this state, you are able to respond with intention rather than emotion, making your words more precise, impactful, and constructive. Silence becomes a tool for transformation. It turns raw emotion into actionable insight, impulsive reactions into strategic responses, and volatile situations into opportunities for thoughtful influence. Choosing silence when emotions are high is also a way to maintain relationships. Heated words can create rifts that are difficult to mend, while silence can prevent unnecessary damage and allow space for reconciliation. In the heat of a disagreement, your restraint sets the tone for others, encouraging calmness and reason instead of feeding into the conflict. People begin to recognize that you are not easily rattled, that you value thoughtfulness over reaction, and that you are someone whose words should be considered carefully. In this way, silence becomes a sign of respect for yourself. for others, and for the integrity of the moment itself. By mastering the art of remaining silent during emotional turbulence, you develop a skill that transcends ordinary communication. It becomes an instinct, a natural response that empowers you to navigate complex social dynamics, manage tense interactions, and make decisions with confidence. It teaches you that sometimes the most powerful response is no response at all, that restraint can speak volumes, and that control over your own words and emotions is one of the most valuable assets you can possess when someone is trying to manipulate you. Your words can become your greatest vulnerability. Manipulation often comes wrapped in subtlety, guilt trips, half-truths, exaggerated claims, or attempts to provoke emotional reactions. In these moments, the instinct to respond immediately, to defend yourself or justify your position, is precisely what a manipulator expects. By speaking too soon, you give away information, reveal weaknesses, or validate their tactics, often without even realizing it. Silence, on the other hand, is a shield. It allows you to observe, to process, and to evaluate without giving the manipulator the satisfaction of a reaction. Choosing not to speak in these situations is an act of strategy. It communicates awareness, strength, and control without needing to assert it verbally. Silence also gives you time to gather information. Manipulators often rely on incomplete knowledge or distortion to influence your decisions. They may present selective facts, exaggerate consequences, or appeal to your emotions to provoke urgency. By remaining quiet, you create a buffer between their narrative and your response. You give yourself the chance to question their motives, identify inconsistencies, and see the full picture. In these moments, silence is not passivity, it is vigilance. It allows you to process the situation with clarity, ensuring that when you do choose to respond, it is with precision and confidence rather than under the pressure of manipulation. Moreover, silence forces the manipulator to reveal themselves. When you refuse to react immediately, the person attempting to control the interaction often escalates, over-explains, or inadvertently exposes their true intentions. They may press harder, repeat their arguments, or show frustration, all of which provides you with critical insight into their strategy. Observing this behavior without interruption gives you the upper hand, turning what could have been a reactive exchange into an opportunity for understanding and control. Silence becomes a tool for decoding behavior, reading between the lines, and anticipating the next move before committing yourself to words or actions. Remaining silent also demonstrates emotional intelligence and self-mastery. Manipulators often test boundaries to see how much control they can exert over your emotions. By withholding a verbal response, you show that you are not easily swayed or provoked. You maintain composure, protect your energy, and communicate strength without aggression. This form of restraint can unsettle the manipulator, forcing them to reconsider their approach and recognize that their attempts to control or influence you will not succeed through coercion or pressure. Silence becomes a statement in itself, a clear indication that your reactions are deliberate and that you are not a pawn in someone else's agenda. Additionally, silence allows you to formulate a strategic response. Once you have observed the manipulator, gathered the necessary facts, and assessed the dynamics, you can choose how and when to speak in a way that preserves your position and communicates authority. Impulsive responses often give manipulators the upper hand because they are uncalculated and reactive. Thoughtful, well-timed words, on the other hand, carry weight, influence outcomes, and establish boundaries effectively. Silence provides the space to craft a response that addresses the manipulation without escalating the situation or compromising your own integrity. In practice, mastering silence in the face of manipulation requires self-discipline and awareness. You must recognize the tactics being used, understand your emotional triggers, and resist the urge to fill the space with words. It involves listening actively, observing carefully, and letting your composure communicate strength. The quietness itself becomes a language, one that signals to others that you are not easily influenced, that you are aware of the dynamics at play, and that you operate from a place of intention rather than reaction. Ultimately, remaining silent in manipulative situations is about control. It is about preserving your autonomy, protecting your energy, and turning potential vulnerability into strength. Silence gives you power, the power to observe, to assess, and to respond strategically. It shifts the balance from being at the mercy of someone else's agenda to being in command of your own choices, actions, and words in a world filled with gossip, negativity, and constant chatter. Choosing silence can be one of the most powerful acts of self-preservation and strategic thinking. Not every conversation deserves your voice, and not every opinion requires validation. Engaging in gossip or reacting to negativity often pulls you into conflicts and dramas that offer no real value, only consuming energy and tarnishing your reputation. Silence in these moments is not apathy, it is discernment. It is the conscious decision to prioritize your integrity and mental space over momentary satisfaction or social validation. By withholding words in such environments, you create a boundary that protects your character and asserts that you will not participate in the spread of negativity. Remaining silent amid gossip also communicates more than you might realize. Words are often used to judge, manipulate, or provoke reactions. When you refuse to respond, when you simply listen without comment, it sends a subtle message. You are not easily influenced and your focus is elsewhere. People notice this restraint, even if they do not immediately acknowledge it. Your silence becomes a signal of self-respect and maturity, demonstrating that you measure your words carefully and understand their impact. Others begin to perceive you as someone whose opinions carry weight, someone who chooses influence over idle chatter. Silence here acts as a protective armor, maintaining your credibility while letting the frivolous arguments around you dissipate without your involvement. Moreover, silence allows you to observe more clearly. When you are not contributing to the noise, you have the opportunity to understand the underlying dynamics at play. You notice motivations, alliances, and tensions that would be invisible if you were too busy reacting or trying to defend yourself. This observational advantage is invaluable. It gives you insight into people's true characters and intentions without exposing your own thoughts or vulnerabilities. Silence transforms you from a participant in gossip to an observer with clarity, enabling you to make informed decisions and act strategically when necessary. Choosing silence also prevents escalation. Words spoken in the heat of gossip or in response to negativity rarely resolve situations. They often exacerbate them. Retaliation, defensiveness, or correction can spiral into ongoing conflict, leaving you drained and distracted. By maintaining silence, you deny others the fuel they seek to ignite further drama. You control your environment not by force or confrontation, but by withholding participation, creating a buffer that shields your peace and reduces unnecessary tension. Silence becomes a form of nonverbal leadership, demonstrating that composure and restraint are more powerful than impulsive engagement. Additionally, silence allows space for reflection. Not every comment or rumor warrants a response, but sometimes the best reaction is to analyze and understand before acting. By observing quietly, you give yourself the opportunity to discern which situations truly require your voice and which can be left untouched. This selective engagement strengthens your judgment and builds your reputation as someone thoughtful and deliberate. People are drawn to individuals who speak less but say more, whose words are measured and intentional rather than reactive or careless. Silence, therefore, is not absence. It is strategy, influence, and control manifested in quiet form. Practicing silence in the face of gossip and negativity also preserves emotional energy. Reacting impulsively, defending yourself, or trying to correct misinformation can be exhausting, leaving you vulnerable to frustration, stress, and even regret. By choosing not to engage, you maintain your composure and mental clarity. You channel your energy toward productive actions, personal growth, and meaningful conversations, rather than being entangled in trivial conflicts. In this way, silence becomes a tool for prioritization, ensuring that your attention is reserved for matters that truly deserve it. Ultimately, mastering the art of silence in environments of gossip and negativity is an act of power and self-respect. It establishes boundaries without confrontation, commands respect without aggression, and allows observation without compromise. Your quietness becomes a statement in itself, demonstrating that your time, energy, and words are too valuable to be wasted on distractions, conflicts, or petty debates. Speaking without complete knowledge can be one of the most dangerous mistakes you make, yet it is a temptation that arises frequently. In a world that values immediacy and instant reactions, the pressure to respond quickly can be overwhelming. But responding without all the facts is a gamble, and one that often leads to misunderstandings, damaged credibility, and unintended consequences. Silence in these moments is not hesitation, it is wisdom. It is the conscious decision to prioritize accuracy over impulse, understanding over assumption, and clarity over speed. By waiting until you have the full picture, you ensure that your words carry weight, authority, and purpose rather than uncertainty, confusion, or error. When you withhold speech until you are informed, you create a space for thoughtful analysis. You allow yourself the opportunity to verify details, assess the context, and consider the perspectives involved. This careful observation turns you from a reactive participant into a deliberate strategist. Silence provides time to question assumptions, identify inconsistencies, and anticipate the potential repercussions of what you might say. Speaking prematurely often leaves you vulnerable to correction, criticism, or manipulation, but silence preserves your position, allowing you to speak with certainty and credibility when the moment is right. Silence also protects your reputation. People remember hasty, misinformed comments far longer than the truth behind them. A single inaccurate statement can overshadow a record of careful judgment and thoughtful insight. By choosing not to speak until you are confident in your understanding, you reinforce the perception that your words are deliberate and trustworthy. Others will learn to value your input precisely because it is informed, measured, and intentional. Silence in this context is a signal of integrity. It shows that you respect the weight of words and the responsibility that comes with speaking them. Moreover, remaining silent when you lack full knowledge allows you to listen actively. Listening is more than hearing words. It is understanding motivations, identifying biases, and uncovering the underlying truth. While others may rush to voice opinions or spread assumptions, your quiet presence allows you to absorb information without distortion. This attentiveness gives you an advantage, as you can synthesize multiple viewpoints, detect contradictions, and discern what is truly important before contributing. Silence becomes a tool of intelligence, enhancing your comprehension and enabling you to respond effectively when the time comes. In high-pressure environments, speaking without facts can escalate conflicts unnecessarily. Assumptions, partial information, or misinterpretations can inflame situations that might otherwise have been manageable. By practicing restraint and withholding commentary, you reduce the risk of misunderstandings and miscommunications. Silence becomes a stabilizing force, allowing you to navigate sensitive circumstances with composure and ensuring that your eventual contributions are constructive rather than destructive. Patience in these moments also builds self-discipline. It requires resisting the urge to assert yourself, to prove a point, or to appear knowledgeable before you truly are. This discipline develops confidence rooted in truth rather than in the appearance of certainty. You cultivate the ability to act from a place of informed understanding rather than reactive impulse. The habit of thoughtful silence becomes second nature, reinforcing the principle that the value of your words is far greater than the frequency with which you speak. Additionally, silence allows you to observe patterns and understand dynamics that might be invisible if you respond prematurely. You see how information is shared, who influences whom, and where gaps or distortions exist. This insight equips you to make decisions and statements that are not only accurate, but strategically advantageous. Your words, when finally spoken, carry authority because they are backed by knowledge, reflection, and careful analysis. In this way, silence transforms from mere inaction into a deliberate and powerful strategy, turning caution into clarity, patience into insight, and observation into influence. Not every conflict requires your voice, and not every argument demands your participation. In fact, jumping into battles that are not yours to fight can drain your energy, create unnecessary tension, and cloud your judgment. Silence in these situations is not avoidance, it is strategy. It is the conscious choice to preserve your resources, maintain clarity, and observe before acting. By choosing not to engage in conflicts that do not directly concern you, you create a space where you can evaluate the situation objectively, understand the dynamics at play, and determine whether intervention is truly necessary. Silence here is a form of protection. It shields you from unnecessary entanglement and allows you to act when your involvement will make a meaningful difference. Remaining quiet in conflicts that are not yours also demonstrates emotional intelligence. Many disputes thrive on reactions, and participants often escalate tensions by drawing others into their drama. By withholding your voice, you prevent yourself from being manipulated or used as a tool to further someone else's agenda. Your silence signals discernment. It shows that you are not easily provoked and that your engagement is deliberate rather than impulsive. This restraint can influence the conflict indirectly, as others begin to recognize that your presence is measured and your responses are considered, not reactive. In essence, silence can exert power without confrontation. Silence also allows you to observe the situation with clarity. When you are not actively involved, you can watch the interactions, motives, and patterns emerge with an unobstructed perspective. You notice who is seeking attention, who is truly affected, and who is attempting to manipulate the circumstances for personal gain. This observation provides insight that is impossible to gain when you are emotionally or verbally entangled in the conflict. By remaining silent, you equip yourself with knowledge that allows you to make informed decisions about if, when, and how to engage effectively. Choosing not to speak in conflicts that are not yours also preserves your credibility and integrity. People notice when someone inserts themselves unnecessarily into disputes or takes sides without understanding the full context. Your silence communicates wisdom and restraint, demonstrating that you value fairness and clarity over impulsive action. It sets a standard for how you engage with challenges and signals that you are someone whose involvement carries intention and authority. Others begin to respect your discernment and your ability to prioritize what truly matters, rather than reacting to every provocation. Furthermore, silence in these moments protects your energy. Engaging in every conflict that arises can be exhausting, leaving you emotionally drained and less capable of addressing the situations that genuinely require your attention. By reserving your voice for meaningful involvement, you maintain your focus, composure, and mental clarity. You conserve strength for battles that are strategically important and for interactions where your presence can create real impact. Silence becomes a tool for efficiency, allowing you to channel your efforts toward outcomes that matter rather than dissipating them in unnecessary disputes. Silence also encourages others to reveal more about the situation than they would if you were actively participating. When you refrain from immediate responses, individuals often speak more openly, exposing their motives, intentions, and weaknesses. This unguarded communication gives you valuable insight into the dynamics at play, equipping you to make better, informed choices when you do decide to act. Silence becomes a mechanism for gathering intelligence, observing patterns, and anticipating the natural progression of events before committing your energy or words. Ultimately, remaining quiet in conflicts that do not concern you is a demonstration of strategic awareness. It teaches you to differentiate between what deserves your attention and what does not, to act with purpose rather than impulse, and to value observation and understanding over reaction. Silence empowers you to maintain control over your involvement, protects your mental and emotional resources, and allows you to intervene only when your contribution is both necessary and impactful. It transforms potential chaos into clarity, distraction into focus, and noise into purposeful action in high-stakes negotiations. Words are not just tools. They are weapons, leverage, and currency. Every phrase, every pause, every tone carries weight, and a single misstep can alter the outcome dramatically. Speaking too soon or without consideration can weaken your position, reveal your vulnerabilities, or give the other party an advantage they were seeking all along. Silence in this context is a strategic asset. It allows you to observe, to assess, and to measure the impact of every interaction before committing your voice. By remaining quiet at critical moments, you assert control, command respect, and maintain the upper hand in ways that words alone cannot achieve. Silence in negotiations is often misunderstood as hesitation or uncertainty, but it is anything but. It is a deliberate tactic that creates tension, encourages the other party to fill the void, and often prompts them to reveal more than they intended. People are naturally uncomfortable with silence. When confronted with it, they are likely to over-explain, offer concessions, or expose weaknesses in their own arguments. By choosing to speak less, you turn the dynamics of negotiation in your favor, allowing the other side to reveal critical information while you remain composed and informed. In this way, silence becomes a tool of insight, giving you the advantage of knowledge and perspective that can be leveraged to achieve desired outcomes. Moreover, silence communicates confidence. In high-pressure situations, those who rush to speak may appear desperate, insecure, or reactive. Those who master the art of measured silence convey authority, patience, and control. Their words, when finally spoken, carry weight precisely because they are scarce, deliberate, and meaningful. Silence signals to others that you are not easily swayed, that you operate from a place of strategy rather than emotion, and that your contributions are valuable because they are calculated. This perception alone can shift power dynamics and create a psychological edge in negotiations. Silence also provides the space to process information critically. In negotiations, details matter: numbers, terms, subtleties of tone, and non-verbal cues all influence outcomes. By holding back your voice, you give yourself the opportunity to absorb, analyze, and synthesize this information before responding. This careful observation allows you to identify opportunities, detect inconsistencies, and anticipate counterarguments. Speaking too quickly often results in concessions or statements that weaken your position, while silence ensures that every word is intentional, every response calculated, and every decision informed. In addition, silence allows you to regulate your own emotions. Negotiations, particularly those with high stakes, can trigger stress, anxiety, or frustration. Reacting impulsively in such moments can be costly. By remaining silent, you maintain composure and prevent emotional responses from undermining your objectives. Silence provides a pause, a moment to breathe, recalibrate, and respond with clarity and precision. It transforms potential volatility into a controlled, strategic advantage, ensuring that your actions are guided by intention rather than impulse. Silence can also serve as a subtle form of leverage. The absence of immediate response can create pressure, prompting the other party to act or make concessions they otherwise would not have considered. It introduces uncertainty, shifts the balance of power, and can accelerate the path toward resolution in your favor. By mastering the timing and use of silence, you can manipulate the flow of conversation without aggression, allowing situations to unfold in ways that benefit your objectives while maintaining professionalism and composure. Finally, silence in negotiations teaches patience and discernment. It reinforces the importance of listening over speaking, observation over reaction, and strategy over impulse. It is a reminder that words, once spoken, cannot be retracted, and that their impact is magnified in environments where stakes are high. Those who understand the power of silence learn to use it as both shield and sword, protecting themselves from missteps while creating opportunities for influence, persuasion, and advantage. Mastering the art of silence is not about avoidance or weakness. It is about power, strategy, and self-mastery. In a world that often values speed over thought, reaction over reflection, silence becomes your greatest ally. It allows you to protect yourself in emotionally charged moments, to see manipulation for what it truly is, and to maintain your integrity amid gossip and negativity. Silence gives you the space to gather facts, process information, and respond with authority rather than impulse. It enables you to conserve energy, avoid unnecessary conflicts, and intervene only when your presence has true impact. Silence also communicates strength to those around you. It signals composure, patience, and discernment, qualities that command respect without a single word. By remaining quiet at critical moments, whether in negotiations, conflicts, or personal reflection, you shift control to yourself, turning observation into insight and restraint into influence. Every pause, every withheld comment, in every deliberate moment of quiet becomes a tool for empowerment. Ultimately, silence is a choice, a conscious, deliberate decision to act with intention rather than reaction. When mastered, it transforms ordinary communication into a powerful instrument, amplifying your words when spoken, protecting your reputation, and allowing you to navigate life's challenges with clarity, confidence, and control.